public meetings in a hybrid sort of fashion like we did during COVID, and since people might be watching on some form of cable TV or streaming it for purposes of both watching the meeting and possibly participating. We've got one opportunity tonight for people to participate, and that's in community comment. No public hearing this evening. And just a reminder, again, whether you're tuning in remotely from the virtual world or you're here in the chambers, if it's on the agenda or scheduled for a future public hearing, those topics are off limits for community comment or for public hearing matters. But we're certainly welcome to hear your concerns about anything else. And we've got some things going on tonight that are interesting, I think, and you'll enjoy the meeting. And so, having provided that information, this is the call-in information, incidentally. It's up on the screen now. So people at home that are interested in speaking, calling in during community comment, please get this information down. We'll put it back up at the appropriate time, but we're going to let people in the council chambers address the council on matters of concern to them first, and then we'll go to the virtual world. So, having provided that information, I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask our clerk, Sharon Ellison, to call the roll.
Councilmember Agnew.
Here.
Councilmember Jackson.
Here.
Councilmember Pierce.
Here.
Councilmember Risser.
Here.
Mayor Hovland.
Here. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, everybody. We've got a form of meeting agenda in front of us. Is there anyone on staff or on the council wishes to modify the agenda in any form or fashion? All right. Is there a motion to approve the meeting agenda as published?
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Jackson moves and Councilmember Pierce seconds the adoption of the meeting agenda as published. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adopting the meeting agenda as published say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Meeting agenda is adopted. We have a document to work from. And here we are now at community comment. And I'll put those, I guess we'll wait until we complete our conversation with people in the audience here at City Hall, and then we'll go to people in the virtual world. So welcome folks to the podium, and as you know, please give us your name and address. And no, excuse me, not the address, just give us your name. I'm getting the hang of this.
Mayor, council members, my name is Ralph Sickert. Tonight, I'd like to reiterate my opposition to the City of Edina's borrowing some $20 million to construct a parking garage at 7001 France Avenue. $20 million to fund a private parking structure for the possible future development of an office building and an apartment complex. $20 million for a site designated as a tax increment financing district 4 years ago with millions of taxpayer incentives, and yet it remains undeveloped, shrouded by a blue tarp. Yet another example of a stalled TIF project. And now, this Thursday, during the HRA meeting, the city will be asked not to forego future tax dollars as proposed under the original TIF agreement, but to use Edina's borrowing authority and take on $20 million of city obligated debt, taxpayer debt, to fund a developer's vision that has remained relatively unchanged over the last 4 years, in spite of the real estate market steadfastly saying, "This dog don't hunt." All the while, Edina has been asked to extend the deadline after deadline and consider yet one new tax incentive after another, each more ill-conceived and riskier to tax-paying residents. But then maybe the average resident doesn't care about adding $20 million in debt to their tax levy. For my part, it's a bad idea at many levels, and it puts the cart before the horse. Borrowing $20 million for a parking garage the city does not need, in the hope that sometime in the next 10 years, a private office building and an apartment will rise from behind the blue tarp. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zickert. Anyone else? Good evening.
Good evening. Mayor and City Council members, my name is Jill Garnier. I won't give my full
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. There you go. And I will just say that I live on Concord Terrace. I'm here on behalf of residents of Concord Terrace and St. John's Avenue to address traffic concerns related to Southview Middle School and to support a petition requesting school-hour parking restrictions. With the support of a strong majority of directly affected neighbors, I submitted the petition photographs and video documentation to the council via email last week. The video accessible through that email is critical to fully understanding the traffic and safety concerns we are addressing. I'll provide a printed copy of the petition this evening for inclusion in the council record. Concord Terrace is located off Concord Avenue, just east of Southview Middle School, and has become a primary staging area for parent pickup. It is a narrow residential street without sidewalks. During dismissal, vehicles line both sides of the street, reducing it to a single constrained lane. Pedestrians must walk along the curb or in the roadway. Conditions are worsened during winter months when snow accumulation narrows the street even further. Reduced sightlines and limited maneuverability create recurring safety and access concerns for students, pedestrians, residents, buses, and emergency vehicles. Traffic conditions worsened notably beginning around 2018, when Southview Middle School moved parent pickup to the south side of the building with access from Concord Avenue. The COVID pandemic caused parent pickup volumes to increase further, and that pattern has persisted. Problematic congestion now occurs daily. In December, I requested review by the Traffic Safety Committee. In January, the committee recommended limited school-hour no parking signage in front of the first 3 homes on the north side of the street. We appreciate the committee's work, but the proposed restriction would simply shift congestion farther down the street rather than resolve it. Our proposal is straightforward. No parking or stopping on school days from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. on the north side of the entire length of Concord Terrace, extending on St. John's Avenue and ending at its intersection with 58th Street. This differs from the committee's recommendation, which would apply the restriction only to the first 3 homes. Including a no stopping restriction is critical, as the roadway constraint is driven primarily by vehicle staging and idling during dismissal. Restricting parking to one side of the street during school hours would improve traffic flow, preserve access, and enhance safety while still allowing parking on the opposite side. Extending the restriction onto St. John's Avenue would prevent congestion from shifting farther down and creating a new bottleneck. Our goal is to create a safer and more predictable environment for students and residents. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay, Jill, just a clarifying point here. Did you resubmit another petition, or are you talking about the original petition only?
This is my first time doing this, so forgive me if
no.
I've got my wording incorrect. I emailed it last week just to have the video documentation kind of available to you, but I guess this would be the official.
Okay.
And it's sort of in response to the Traffic Safety Committee's recommendation.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
My name's Laura Han. I'm an Edina resident, and I want to start off by thanking the council. I know over the last month you've done a lot of work to really make it clear that ICE activity is not welcome in our community. My request today is that you continue to further this work, and I know work is ongoing, but I wanted to put forward kind of 2 large categories of requests. The first is related to the staff of the city of Edina, to make it explicitly clear to all of them that they do have a right to go out and protest and that their jobs are protected when they're outside of work time. My second is to explore how you could offer some unpaid leave or work from home opportunities as the staff is continuing to navigate this really dynamic and challenging situation. The second ask is related to future public sessions, call those public conversations, discussions, community meetings, whatever you would like to bulk those as. I think there's some big topics that really deserve public engagement and discussion. The first is what the future looks like if we have ICE officers applying to city jobs in the future. I would specifically encourage that we do not allow them, especially in situations where they'd be working in schools, at our park districts, in any sort of security or election-related roles, and keep them out of law enforcement. I'm also really interested in city funds that are being used in Amazon contracts and Amazon procurement. I think there's been opportunities where that money could be spent in more local businesses, really supporting our local economy, and I'd like to really bring some visibility to that. In light of some really wild recent actions where we have seen private data of Edina residents given freely to DHS from companies like Google, Reddit, Meta, and then coupled with threatening comments from the administration that folks who have spoken out against ICE will potentially be at risk of denaturalization or other such criminal convictions. Really interested in how the city can protect residents, both their data and their security overall, for their freedom of speech. I've read and looked at that you've done a lot of work related to the surveillance contracts that we have, and I really appreciate that. I'd like to see more discussions about where there might be good faith elements that we don't have full visibility into where our data is going, to really make sure that even though it's in the contract, we've seen that contracts aren't holding the same weight that they used to, and that our data remains really safe and secure. And then this last one, I think, is another one that deserves a lot of attention. We've seen a lot of public conversation that says that Edina Police Department has been looking the other way as ICE officers or ICE responders have been breaking basic traffic laws. We've seen speeding, ignoring stoplights and stop signs, windows that are tinted beyond limits, mismatched or missing license plates moving around the city, and the sense has been that that has been overlooked, and we would like to understand what happened there. And so with that, I thank you all for the work you're doing and look forward to where this goes next.
All right, thanks, Laura. Anyone else? Okay, do we have anybody online that wishes to address the council?
I do not have anyone at this time.
Okay. So our practice is that we'll get responses prepared by Friday of this week. They'll be posted on the web. And then our city manager is usually comments to the, provides responses to the comments that were made at the prior meeting. And I'll turn now to Manager Neal for that.
Thank you, Your Honor. We had 5 questions that we responded to from our February 4th meeting. The first question was, what is the latest on the Roslyn Park pedestrian bridge? If the artistic cladding is not approved by late spring, will you consider moving forward with the construction without it? And our response is that the project will go out for bids in late February, early March. Alternate bids will be collected, and that's very common in our larger infrastructure projects. Cladding is one of those alternate bids. Construction is planned for 2026 with or without cladding based on discussions with the council related to bids and budgets. Second question is, what is the latest on the agreement between the city and the Department of Justice regarding the Grandview pedestrian bridge? When might construction begin on those improvements? Staff have been developing accessible ramp options that meet the requirements stated by the Department of Justice. Engineering and legal staff from the city has met with the DOJ representatives on site in December and discussed possible solutions. The options and cost estimates will be completed in the upcoming weeks. City attorney will re-engage with the DOJ at that time to discuss next step options, and we're looking at a closed session meeting with council on March 3rd is when we've tentatively have that calendar. Will you consider a separation ordinance? And this was also from the February 4th meeting. And our response was that cities do not have legal authority to regulate or limit federal immigration enforcement. Adopting a separation ordinance might not be enforceable and could expose the city to legal and financial risk without changing federal actions. At the February 4th meeting, the City Council approved a resolution affirming community values amid immigration enforcement operations, and the city has a clear police policy in place. The Edina Police do not enforce federal immigration law and focus on protecting and serving community regardless of immigration status. This approach allows the city to clearly state its values, maintain public safety and trust, and operate within the legal authority while avoiding actions that could create unintended consequences or confusion about the city's role. The next question was, will the city consider supporting a call for the state to issue an eviction moratorium? The City Council carefully considered whether to call for a state-issued eviction moratorium and ultimately chose not to due to several significant risks identified through past practice, most notably through the COVID-19 era, including unintended harm to housing providers, risk of long-term housing loss overall, and lack of targeted relief since moratoria can delay evictions even for households that have the ability to pay. Instead, the council approved a resolution urging the state of Minnesota to swiftly approve emergency rental assistance funding in response to Operation Metro Surge. This approach provides a more balanced approach to housing stability for impacted residents while ensuring housing providers can continue operating and maintaining safe and stable housing. The final question is, what is the funding for the pedestrian, what is the funding for the pedestrian cyclist safety fund for the next 5 years, and does it increase with inflation? In 2025, you may recall that the PACS fund received $1.72 million in revenue from utility franchise fees. In 2025, the city switched from a flat rate model to a fixed percentage for utility franchise fees. Revenues do not increase with inflation, but do vary with the rates of utility consumption, gas and electric. And charges their customers are based on annual consumption. For planning purposes, staff has assumed that the same annual revenue, or approximately $8.6 million in total revenue for the next 5 years. That's it.
All right, good. Does it prompt any questions or comments from council members? All right, thanks for that update. We'll move on now to the next portion of the agenda, which is the adoption of the consent agenda. And we have, I think, Member Risser, did you get your issues worked out with the clerk on the minutes? So do you have?
Yes, however, I do want to talk about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's fine. So we'll pull that one. That's the regular meeting on February 4th?
Yes.
Okay. And then Member Jackson wanted to pull the item 6.18, and that is the 2026 proposed commission appointments.
Yes.
So we'll pull those two. Is anything else that council members wish to pull from the consent agenda? All right. Then with the exception of item 6.1 as it relates to the regular meeting minutes of February 4th, 2026, and item 6.18, is there a motion to approve the balance of the items on the consent agenda in a single motion?
So moved.
Second.
Member Jackson moves, Member Pierce seconds the adoption of the items on the consent agenda in a single motion with the exception of item 6.1, regular meeting minutes February 4, 2026, and 6.18. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the motion as stated, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Those items on the consent agenda are approved. I'm going to turn now to Member Risser with respect to her comments relative to the proposed draft of the minutes of the regular meeting on February 4th, 2026. Member Risser.
Thank you. This concerns the summary of item 8.1. In the minutes, it says the council expressed concerns regarding the parking spaces in front of the driveway to the private garage and worries that it violates this city statute. What I think is important to underscore is that it's not about city statute. And what I would like it to read is the council expressed concerns that the parking spaces in front of the driveway to the private garage violates Minnesota statute, and I have that 169.34. Additionally, however, Edina City Code Section 26-35 conflicts with state statute, this very state statute 169.34, by creating a loophole that allows parking spaces in front of driveways that front onto parking lots. And so I think it's important to understand that our city code is in conflict with our state statute. And I apologize, however, because you don't have this formal rewritten statement in front of you tonight. And so I wonder if perhaps we could table approval of the February 4th minutes so that we could include that at our next meeting.
Yeah, we could certainly do that. Would you care to make that motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
All right, we got a second by Member Agnew and motion by Member Risser to table the minutes from the regular meeting on February 4th, 2026 to the next meeting of the Edina City Council, which is, what's that date? March 3rd, 2026. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor of tabling the regular meeting minutes for February 4th, 2026 to the next regular city council meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Now we're going to turn to matter 6.18, which is the proposed commission appointments for this year, for this coming year. A lot of good work was done by these council members, all sitting here interviewing people that were wanting to serve their town in various capacities on various types of boards and commissions. Wonderful array of candidates, and those selections have been made by the council, and I'm going to turn now to Member Jackson to walk us through that.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I want to thank Chair Corey Lukens and Chair Tommy Everson, I'm sorry, for sitting in on the interviews with us and helping out. They did a great job, and we're really lucky to have them as commission chairs here in our city. With that, everybody we interviewed was qualified. It was a difficult decision, but we made our decision, including adding some alternates. So I'm going to read off their names. I won't read their commissions, but I want to thank everybody who applied. It's a wonderful way to give back to our city, and we're just so proud of the number of people who stand up and offer their time and talents for our city. So with that, our appointees are Kruti Shukla, Shandis Parrish, Stephen Shima, Natalie Budin, Chris Olson, Amber Koch, Phil Baker, Alex Consemius, Joe Brennan, Laura Lukens, Taylor Brunschwein, Jake Vandalist, and Scott Davidson. And our alternates are Neil Gogemeyer, Patrick Gage, Scott Rohde, Justin Rezak, and Rachel Rosen. So congratulations, everybody, and thank you so much for serving our city.
All right, Member Jackson, would you care to move that slate of appointees for appointment to the commission members, appointment to the various commissions that they've applied for that we've approved?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Is a tiebreaker there? All right. Member Agnew?
There you go.
Defer to Member Agnew for the second on the appointment of the various citizens in our community to a variety of boards and commissions. And so the motion is to approve the 2026 commission appointments of the commission members named by Member Jackson to the various commissions in the memo itself. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the recommendation of the council for the 2026 commission appointments, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Those commission appointments are made. And thanks to those folks for serving. Thanks to everybody for interviewing. Really, almost an embarrassment of riches in our town in terms of the people that apply, all so qualified and so willing to serve. It's really a wonderful thing to see. All right. Now we're going to move on to another portion of the agenda, which is the special recognitions and presentations portion of the agenda. The first matter we have there before a citizen award presentation is a proclamation designating February 18th, 2026 as School Bus Driver Appreciation Day in the city of Edina. And that proclamation reads as follows. Whereas school bus drivers in the city of Edina safely transport our community's children to and from school and activities each day, often in challenging weather and traffic conditions. And whereas these professional drivers are entrusted with the safety and well-being of dozens of students on every route, providing a reliable, welcoming presence that often begins and ends a student's school day. And whereas school bus drivers are essential partners in our local education system, helping ensure that all students can access learning opportunities regardless of their family's schedule, distance from school, or transportation resources. And whereas students are significantly safer riding in a school bus than in a passenger vehicle, thanks to rigorous safety standards, professional training, and ongoing student safety education. And whereas school bus transportation is a vital part of our community's infrastructure and the largest form of mass transit in Minnesota, supporting families, schools, and employers every day. And whereas the city of Edina wishes to recognize and thank our school bus drivers for their dedication, their professionalism, and their commitment to our students' safety. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Edina does hereby proclaim February 18th, 2026 as School Bus Driver Appreciation Day in the City of Edina and encourages all residents, schools, and families to join in expressing appreciation to our school bus drivers for their important work. Is there a motion to adopt the proclamation?
So moved.
A second.
Member Jackson moves, Member Agnew seconds the adoption of the proclamation designating February 18th, 2026 as School Bus Driver Appreciation Day in the city of Edina. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the proclamation as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The proclamation is adopted. We don't have anybody here to accept the proclamation. They're probably already in bed getting ready for the morning shift, so 5 a.m. In fact, I think some of us were invited to. They said, well, come on over and celebrate with us. And we said, well, what time? They said, well, 5 to 9. They said, you know, not 5 to 9, but 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. And we thought, well, I don't know if that's going to work. I can't be there for 4 hours. There's other things going on. So anyway, congratulations to all those great school bus drivers we have in Edina, and hopefully try to get over and visit them some morning. And now we've got a citizen award presentation. Is the chief here? Or, oh, Jake's going to do it? All right, Lieutenant Hecker's going to do it.
Mr. Mayor, Council, today we're here to award a Citizens Award to Chris Hansen, so I'll invite him to come up front.
Good evening.
How you doing?
Good, good.
Got some people here.
Yeah,
Got a lot of people from his organization.
Your peeps are here.
Yep,
He's invited us over. It's a whole organization award.
Take a picture, Brandon. Mike, come on, buddy. Yeah,
There is. Come, huddle
a
around.
couple pounds.
If
So,
the awardee wants you up there, you better come up.
yes. So tonight we're here to present a Citizens Award to Chris Hansen. In April of 2012, Chris suffered a life-changing accident that resulted in a traumatic brain injury. After a long and difficult recovery, he found strength through resilience, faith, and time spent fishing, time that helped him heal both physically and mentally. Inspired by those who supported him, particularly the veterans, first responders, and medical professionals, Chris dedicated himself to giving back. While balancing a full-time career, he founded the nonprofit organization Time on the Water, recognizing the critical impact mental health has on first responders. Through guided fishing trips, Time on the Water provides first responders the opportunity to step away from career stressors, reconnect with another, and find therapeutic healing. These trips, fully equipped with gear, meals, guides, and lodging, are made possible through Chris's tireless fundraising and planning. Time on the Water has created meaningful, life-changing experiences for countless heroes, including Edina police officers who have found renewed camaraderie, reflection, and support while spending time on Lake of the Woods. For his compassion and unwavering commitment to those who protect and serve the community, we are proud to present the Citizens Award to Chris Hansen.
Yeah.
Awesome.
How about that? Chris, hold on a minute. We'd like to have some comments from you. We'll hear more about this therapeutic fishing idea that you had, and then we're going to come down with you and your whole crew and have a photo taken too. So,
Awesome. Thank you.
yeah. Let's tell us a little bit about the organization.
So it started out with just me. Back in 2014, I took one person up, and that turned into 2015, and I was uninsured and borrowing money and taking my own money, and my wife is back. She is. Telling me we didn't make it to the NHL, and you're not going to be a pro fisherman, so we need to figure this out a different way. So Kim and one of my friends, we put an idea together. Maybe this needs to be a nonprofit. So that was in 2016 that we got our nonprofit status, and then begging, borrowing, stealing, begging for money every day. It's 12 months a year, and we hit our 502nd guest last year. So we do small, intimate trips. They're meant for people to get space and time so they can think through things. Like I have post-traumatic stress from my accident, and I think I had it before because I have a real estate business. That's what I do for a living. But anyways, it gets me clear, and so I can come back and be better for my clients, my wife, my dogs, just better as a whole. But these trips are made for people to get some separation. We see a number of times where we tell everybody that comes up on the trip, there's going to be a part of the trip where you're going to see a guy down on the dock or someone by themselves or thinking through something, and that happens every trip. We've got some American Legion riders here. We've got some Navy veterans. I think we've got a Marine, my board members. He's Iraq vet, Vietnam vet, all kinds of different faces that belong in whatever group. So we supply everything. We've got about 30 volunteer boat captains that help us through every trip. So we start in Maine, we go till October. So last year we did 16 trips. That was too many?
Yeah, and do
this
you
year
go
we've got-
different lakes? Or?
Nope, we only fish Lake of the Woods out of Sioux Narrows, Ontario. It's a lake I've been fishing. This is my 41st season going up there. The lodges that we go through, we lease part of the lodge, so we're there all season. All of our equipment stays up there, and then we rent cabins for each of the veterans and the first responders that come up, so they all have their own place to stay. It's not camping, I can promise you that. So everybody has, we do buffet breakfast, buffet dinner. We do a shore lunch one of the days where we eat what we catch. The last night we do, the lodge does a fish fry for the whole camp. So it's just everybody gets a chance to kind of connect to each other. But we try to keep the trips in groups. Like this trip with Edina and Eden Prairie, those guys all know each other through working together through SWAT. And I know Brandon and Nate, they grew up together. So that's how they connected. And how I met those guys is I was showing houses in Eden Prairie one day, and there was somebody breaking into open houses. Anyways, I had a car that was wrapped with Homes for Heroes and my real estate stuff. I'm not shy. But a cop car pulled up to me with his lights on, and it was someone. I'm like, I didn't do anything. I was just sitting here. But I got out of the car to give him a brochure, and I thought, no, I better get back in the car. The guy came up to me. I gave him a brochure, and that got to Nate. Back in, Nate, what did we talk about, 2018? Yeah, and then so 2019, these trips started, and it's been a great relationship. So we've been trying to get as many of these guys up as we can as a thank you and to give them some time and space.
Yeah.
Because I think their job's a little bit more stressful than real estate, but not that much.
It's a great story.
Yeah.
Therapy. So we're going to come down. We can all come up here and turn that way, and we're going to get a photo with you guys.
Awesome. Yeah. Where do you want us to go?
Oh, we got somebody to take the picture. Nice try. I've tried that one several times.
Oh, I forgot donation packets. You got it? Well, it's on that chair back there, but.
I got someone for Annie.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Oh, well, 2 years ago, we had a Vietnam vet come up, and he was actually a prisoner of war. He was chained to a this story. How he's manipulating part of his life to keep talking about his situation. Yeah, thank you. That's why Mary came on right there. Take one. All right, thank you. Oh, my God.
Well, that was quite a great experience, and what a wonderful idea, and I hope it prospers, continues to prosper. It's well worth it. It was nice to be able to give them an award. So that completes the special recognitions and presentations portion of the agenda. Let's move now on to reports and recommendations. That portion of the agenda involves a few matters that we need to work on tonight. And the first one there is a proposed ordinance that amends our so-called tree ordinance dealing with tree protection. And Perry Vetter, our Park and Rec Director, has this matter, and maybe Dave Kendall has part of it as well. So, Director Vetter, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I'll do the introduction of this item for you tonight, and our initial request for you tonight is to grant the first reading of this ordinance. As you know, the city's had a tree protection ordinance for a little over a decade and a half. In 2023, you made some substantial changes to that ordinance that took effect on January 1st of 2023. So this evening we have brought back some technical, some legal, and some operational changes to the existing ordinance for your review. I'll highlight some of the aspects of that this evening and just point out that in your packet we do have a compare and contrast document that was prepared for ease of use, as this has been a lot of changes and a lot of the technical pieces was a reordering, hopefully for improved readability. Some of the issues that are in the proposed for adoption are repealing the tree ordinance from Chapter 10, the Buildings and Building Regulations section of City Code, and amending that into Chapter 30 for vegetation, where vegetation would then house all the tree protection requirements. An additional change that has been discussed was that this ordinance will now be effective for all zoning districts rather than prior of just R1 and R2. There are a lot of definitions in the ordinance that were added for common understanding for both the city and the permit holder. And I do understand with our new move towards the accessibility documents that we do have a one section under, I believe, final inspection, that when you look at the compare and contrast document this evening, it is correct. But in the section of the ordinance, it still has some duplicative text, so we will work on that change as well moving forward. One of the pieces also that the council gave us feedback on was for requirements of the tree replacement. We previously had where it would be a 1-to-1. So if you removed a coniferous tree, you'd replace it with coniferous, or a deciduous with deciduous. There now is an allowance up to 20% to further diversify the tree plantings. There are exemptions for replanting requirements on built lot, including situations where existing trees may pose damage to foundations, sidewalks, driveways, as confirmed by a certified professional. And there is also an allowance that the city engineer can make some allowances in the case of certain easements on a property. One of the biggest changes in the ordinance as well is the creation of an off-site planting mitigation opportunity, where that radiates outward from the property in under development and goes along that to try to get replacement trees as close to the impacted property as possible. So those are kind of maybe the core changes that we do have presented for you this evening. There has been a lot of staff involved in this, looking at it from all different departments, from administration, community development, our Parks and Forestry Department, Engineering and Sustainability, and even our Buildings Division. This did get some impact from the Energy Environment Commission. As you know, they've been kind of a lead in this area for the community. We've kind of factored in the feedback that we've gotten along from the City Council along this journey. And then obviously a major portion of this was a legal review with the city attorney and city attorney's staff. So our ask this evening is we would be able to stand for any questions, whether any of the staff members here can answer those tonight, but that you grant us first reading.
Yes, thank you, Director Vetter. Questions for Director Vetter? Comments? Councilmember Jackson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So first of all, before we talk about the tree ordinance, when is the spring tree sale going to be? Because we paid money to buy the trees, and we want to tell the public to go out and buy those trees. And
You know, Councilmember Jackson, I actually had that, and I forgot to say it in my introduction, was thank you again for on the consent agenda. The City Council did approve our annual tree sale, and that will be 250 trees this spring. So we'll be getting that information out shortly. And then we'll have another 250 trees for sale again this fall. So we kind of always do a spring and a fall where we get half out in the beginning of the year and half out in the latter half.
so selfishly, I want to know the date.
Okay. We got some staff here that's probably going to work on that behind me. So.
Okay, all right, so you don't have the date yet? Okay, in March, we'll learn in March, okay. Gonna be first in line this year.
Plenty of advance notice.
Okay, so to the ordinance, did the EEC give you any feedback that varies from what you presented this evening?
Mayor, Councilmember Jackson, they did not. What they did also is looked at the substantive changes that we brought to you at the last work session. And really, a lot of their work was confirming the priorities that we had in here, which was more about protection of existing trees and then creating that avenue for replacement and replacement as close to the subject property as possible. Really understanding that their priorities are also still on, as well as staff, on heritage trees as well, and truly trying to protect those in our community and ensuring that what this ordinance really tries to do is ensure we still have that neighborhood character of trees within and not to create that off-ramp, I guess you'd say, where we had in the past, which was planting, you know, not in neighborhoods, but try to find a further away off-site, maybe like in a city park or something, creating that various disconnect from subject property to where eventual trees were.
Okay, thank you. And I know the Transportation Commission a couple of years ago looked at boulevard trees. Do you remember what the outcome of that was, of that discussion?
I do not, Councilmember Jackson,
Okay.
but we can gather that information for you.
Yeah, I think that's separate from what the ordinance would be, but we did get some comments from the public saying, how about boulevard trees? And I think it had to do with street repair or, I don't remember, but if you could send us back, just let us know what the status of that, where we ended that, that'd be great.
We'll definitely check in with the liaison for the Transportation Commission.
And so, and I want to thank everybody who worked on this. The canopy is a shared resource, and individual property owners look at it and are like, well, this is hurting, I can't plant all these trees, or I don't want to have to pay for this and everything, but they're taking something, when one of these protected or heritage trees comes down, they're taking something away from the character and quality of our city as a whole. So to me, that's really helpful to look at, that it's our job through this ordinance to protect that canopy. And I really appreciate all the time and effort that so many staff members have done working on this, and I think these are good changes. Thank you.
Councilmember Risser.
I have two concerns. One I've had for a long time. It goes back to the first time I heard about this tree ordinance. And I don't know how to solve this, but I just want to put this out there. What it really does is it focuses on existing trees, and that makes sense. However, if your property has, maybe 4 trees and you've got 1/5 of an acre or something like that, that's a lot of trees. And so, you want to take down one and it's a healthy tree, then you need to introduce more trees. And it, to me, kind of makes me think of the classic Disney Sorcerer's Apprentice video with Mickey and the, brooms all, going everywhere. And so part of what I'm hearing from the public is we get that we want to protect the trees. However, there is only so much that a homeowner who already has trees can do. And so if you have trees, you become responsible, and I understand that, but at the same time, homes that don't have any trees or properties that have no trees don't have to do anything. And so part of the issue, I think, is trying to figure out how to not just maintain the tree canopy, but to spread it. And I know in the southeast quadrant, we do have, this very meager tree canopy. And one of the things I was thinking about, goes back to what Member Jackson was mentioning with boulevard trees. And how can we really try to make an environment in which there is a boulevard that could actually support a tree? And here, I think some of the things that we're doing to encourage projects and development and really get those through, doing really sort of, large setback variances. I think of View 44, and they were allowed an easement into the public right-of-way. And so you've got railings coming down into the public right-of-way. You've got planter beds, right up near the patio. And that meant there was less room for a broader sidewalk or, less room for a boulevard. And so I feel like we've been doing creative development now for at least 10 years, where there are large setback variances, and that is very beneficial for launching those projects. But it kind of, I think, comes at a cost for getting trees in areas where we really desperately need them. And so I want to just put that out there, like, what can we do to spread the canopy? And maybe there could be something written that would require reflection on what, a development that goes way beyond the legal buildable area, how is that impacting open spaces? So there's that, also thinking of PUDs and our design guidelines, carving up parcels into 4 quadrants, and then you've got streets northeast and southwest that have to go in. But those are kind of, again, very creative. You don't have to take away that space the street occupies when you're calculating how big the building can be. So that's another really creative element of our process that I think really reduces the amount of green space. So I would hope that this is not just the end, because if we're going to spread the tree canopy, we need to do some fundamental changes to the way that we're doing things to create that green space. So that's my concern, and I don't know what to do about, it feels like the homeowners who have the trees end up shouldering so much of the burden, and I know we've done things to make it more feasible, but I just kind of am, running up, and I know that's the issue. So I have no answer, but I wanted to raise that because I'm hearing that from residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Russer. Member Agnew.
Thank you. Could you please walk me through what the user experience would be for a homeowner under this new ordinance? So say I want to take down a tree in my yard. What do I do? What's the process?
I will do my best. And I will do my best, Councilmember Agnew, just the realization that I do not do this portion of it. So we're going to go down this journey together. And the piece of it, if you did have the compare and contrast document, is really, it's going to start when the applicant comes in and the type of building permit that they are applying for is going to trigger whether or not this tree protection ordinance applies to their project or not. So that's really going to be the first step, right? And it would apply if it's a project over a certain value. If it's under a certain value or different types of projects, it would not apply. But the first piece of it is the reflection of a tree survey. And that is going to be existing trees over a certain diameter that are defined in the ordinance, whether or not they are a protected tree, whether or not they are a heritage tree. And then what are the impacts to those trees by the proposed type of construction you're going to do on your property. Whether that's an addition, whether that's other amenities that you're adding to your property, and what those are impacted. So with that, there's a calculation of the protected tree is at a 75% value, and a heritage tree is at a 100% value of those inches. Inches, let me refrain, inches for deciduous, and it's going to go by feet for coniferous. It's just the way that this ordinance, and we want to measure trees, right? With that, you will get a count of either feet replacement or inch replacement. That will go towards your estimated escrow that you will provide to the city. And then through that way, there's a lot of plan review back and forth with our forestry team and the applicant team about their submittals, whether or not they have a certified arborist involved or not. An arborist may say, or a certified professional, that what would be new in this ordinance is this tree, we need to remove it, whether we did this development or not, because it's impacting the foundation of the house, or it is impacting the current driveway, right? So some of those exemptions would come out of those inches or feet calculations, others may not. With that, then you're gonna have a value of the amount that you need to replace on your property. For that escrow is either you can get a quote from a landscaper that says they're going to provide you those trees at that dollar amount. That could be considered the escrow, or you can go through the DBH calculation of the price per inch, which is written in the ordinance, and then you deposit that in the escrow. As you would go through your construction, if you final your project, you get 50% of your escrow back at that time. You need to fill out the forms and ask for that to be released. And then it would happen again at 12 months, right? Because our staff wants to verify that the health of the trees are there, or you've had time to replace them under warranty, or however that would matter. And then at that point, if everything matches up, your request for escrow release is done, the escrow is returned back to that applicant. What's new in this ordinance now is if you feel, again, like we had talked about, I don't have room on my property, or I don't want as many trees on your property. Because we're trying to protect trees in that neighborhood, maintain that neighborhood character, there starts to be options for alternate ways that you can mitigate that tree replacement, whether it's not on your property, you can go on neighbor's property, you can go within the neighborhood, all the way down to if an applicant exhausts all those pieces of where people would take that. So there is the opportunity that within this ordinance that people that want trees, that do not have trees on their property, can create a relationship with that developer to get trees onto those properties, right? All we ask is that we get authorization to make sure we can inspect them and to make sure that they're healthy. The arrangement between two property owners can be between them. So we've kind of created this opportunity to say if you can't put it on your property, you can start to radiate out from that parcel. That's a very general, I'm not the expert, but we can have experts back next meeting.
No, I think you really helped in just kind of giving me that story side of it, or thinking through what will our residents experience. So one of the first things that you said was if there is a permit that they're seeking, and they, I guess, like in some way indicate that like trees will be removed as a part of that process. I'm curious, does that then, by limiting it to only projects where there's a permit required, leave too much scope where we as a city don't have the ability to help protect our tree canopy?
I understand where you're asking, Councilmember Agnew, and I think you're onto it, because if you are not pulling a permit, you have the autonomy to remove trees on your property right now. And this ordinance would not prevent that. If that is something the council wished us to study and look at, we could look at that. We are not recommending it at this time. So I think what you're saying is, could someone just remove all the trees from their property? They could. That would be their choice. What this does is any building permit over a $100,000 valuation or new home construction over $500,000 requires this tree permit. That also lines up with some of our affordable housing pieces, so we're not requiring this if you're falling under that affordable housing metric. But you are correct. If nothing requires a resident to pull a permit to remove trees on their property right now, nor would this, unless the catalyst was building development.
Could I just add to that a little bit?
I would love if he would.
So it does talk about the different types of permits that this addresses, and it's quite a number of different permits. It's grading permits, demolition permits, building permits, and subdivision applications. So, and there's also a look-back period to determine if people have removed trees in a certain period leading up to that application. So it really curtails a lot of the potential dangers of people just clear-cutting trees and then not having to replace them under this ordinance. It addresses a lot of those situations. You know, the fact is you kind of have to draw a line somewhere, and we've tried to draw a line in a reasonable place where it really tries to catch a lot of the common problems that Edina was experiencing with people removing a lot of their trees from their lots in a redevelopment situation. This is really designed to capture that. It doesn't capture everything because that would be very difficult, but it captures the main problems that Edina was experiencing, and that's what we've tried to go for.
Is there a reason that you would recommend against trying to capture every situation in which trees would be removed?
Yeah, I think it would be pretty impractical. I mean, you'd have to do a tree survey of the entire city, and then anytime anyone went out and cut down one single tree, you would have to pursue that as a potential ordinance violation, and then it just becomes pretty limiting on people's property rights. You know, people expect a certain amount of freedom to do what they want to with their properties when they're not applying for various permits of this nature. So that's where we've tried to draw a line. It would be possible to try to go further, but it would become more difficult and people would probably have more concerns about infringement on their property rights.
Thank you. I know that when we reviewed this back in September, when we previously talked about it, I had indicated a desire to see an appeal process for if, I think we'd had some examples, right, where there was just a lot of costs that were potentially being put into escrow and wanting to at least open the door for an appeal either to a commission, construction board of appeals, whatever it might be, or to the council. Was that discussed, and why is it not included in this as we're reviewing it now?
Thank you, Councilmember Agnew. We did discuss that, and we did look at some sort of appeals process within this, which was the outpouring of, I'll get to why we didn't recommend it, but was the on-site and then off-site mitigation strategy. So it still got the, hopefully the same amount of tree inches or tree feet replaced nearest to that property. When we did look at the appeals process, if we want to call it that for today, what we were very concerned about was that we could not define it based on, you know, the soils type, if it would recommend or not recommend, because certain trees do well in sand, some will do in clay, some will do in peaty soils. So we really felt that if we had some sort of variance for that, it would be extremely arbitrary. And I think what we really wanted to caution about was to remove all the arbitrary items from this, really is try to make it as technical and precise and operational for staff and for the applicant to try to create that avenue. So what was the outpouring of not recommending of an appeal process was the creation of off-site plantings.
Thank you. Okay, my last question. Is there a way that we can make this data available to residents? And the use case that I'm thinking of is, I know we've had some people come into community comment and they're really upset about big, beautiful trees that are cut down in their neighborhoods. Is there a way that we can expose that on our city website of, you know, yes, this big, beautiful tree was cut down and this is the plan of mitigation to show neighbors that they are still aligning to the tree ordinance policy that we have in place? Because right now, I think that we just kind of field those questions, but I think giving better visibility to neighbors, because I think this is one of those things that's very visual, right? You notice it when you're driving home. I noticed it one night I was leaving a city council meeting and I'm like, oh my gosh, those huge 2 beautiful trees, like they're gone. Did they follow the process? Which I can just email Scott, and well, anyone I guess could too, but I'm sure that Scott doesn't want to field all of those questions.
Oh, no, I do.
So that's where I'm thinking about, like, if this is information that we could make more available, that might be helpful for neighbors.
We can discuss that, Councilmember Agnew, about how we could go through that process. And I think as long as there is a permit, there is some public data around that, but it may not entail some of the other examples where, you know, someone may be removing trees because of their health, right, or impacts, or, you know, other issues that they're having on their property. But we can discuss if it's part of a application or building permit about how to make some visibility on that.
Yeah, and I think even when it is a part of a a new construction is the example I often think of. I know that there are some cases where a tree is removed and it had health concerns. I think giving visibility into like, this one is falling out of the ordinance because of those health concerns, and this is what the required mitigation is for the remaining healthy trees, as an example.
And Councilmember Rega, we also have a number of trees that may be on a person's property that do not count towards protected heritage. You know, some of the undesirable or invasive species as well that people may not know what they were, but they know they're gone, I think, in what you're stating.
Thank you.
Councilmember Pierce.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of comments. I have not liked this since we've been looking at the changes. I still don't, but I'm not sure what to do about that. I definitely, like everyone, we want to protect the tree canopy, and so I get that. With the ordinance that focuses on remodel and new build or new construction, I just feel like it disadvantages others in the community. When we try to then go further than that, I just struggle with that. Because at the end of the day, if it's not, even if it's new construction, but I get new construction, right? If there's a lot, there's trees on it, nothing's ever been built there, I actually think it makes sense for us to, permit gets pulled, right? We look at protecting the trees. That one makes sense to me. But that's the only one that makes sense to me. So remodel or any other variation of that, I just don't think it's my business to tell a property owner what to do with their trees. And so if a property owner wants to cut trees on their lot, then they have the right to cut trees on their lot. And so I say that because I think if we're really focused on trying to save the trees, then I still believe our focus ought to be helping people understand awareness of why it's important, having some kind of a HOA kind of a concept where, right, if you own a home in Edina, a portion of your property taxes go to protecting these trees, and this is the process we're using to do that. And the city is managing where those trees get planted, right? Everything gets tagged, right? And that's how and you do a survey, like you said, citywide. But we're never going to do that, right? That's not what we're trying to accomplish. And so I struggle with it because of the property rights issue, and just believe, well, I feel like we're going to continue to have this conversation as we try to tweak and find a right way to kind of thread that needle. And I understand that. But my position's probably going to always be the same. I don't like it for those reasons. I like the new build. I don't like the remodel one. I think if you own the home, maybe after a certain point, you can do whatever you want to do on your property, barring legal activity. And so I don't know how to address these challenges, but I think we're going to continue to struggle with how to thread that needle.
Thank you, Member Pierce. Back to Member Jackson.
Yes, thank you. I thought of a question that I forgot to ask you. I've heard of people who want to plant a specific kind of tree, and for some reason they can't find it in the size that the ordinance requires. What would the process be if they bought a smaller version of that tree and then the tree grew? Can they get their money back when the tree reaches the size that it was supposed to be when it was planted, or the height? How would that work if you plant a substandard tree?
Yes, Councilmember Jackson, that would be one avenue that someone had, would just be to wait on the 50% of escrow release until the tree reached the minimum maturity.
Okay, so if I wanted to plant a 2-inch tree, I wait till it gets to be 4 inches, then,
Yep.
terrific. Okay, thank you.
I think that's what happened over on Dakota Trail, wasn't it? Some of the cluster trees over there, they weren't, they didn't measure quite properly. There were two standards of measurements, I guess, their standard and the standard that our arborist is proposing, but they must have grown to the point from a diameter standpoint where they got their money back maybe a year later.
That is correct, Mayor. Those trees did reach maturity.
Okay. And I know we've talked about this in the past, we don't have many undeveloped lots left. Some of them have more severe grade implications than others, I think. And so that was the problem on Dakota Trail too, was that to get the house built on the pad, they had to clear back and have a retaining wall, and that took some trees down that required a greater number of trees on less space, basically. And I don't know if this ordinance solves that problem or not.
Yes, Mayor, that was one of the unintended consequences, I think, of initial adoption was it did not, well, there aren't many left. There are still lots that are undeveloped that have never had a principal structure on it. So that was some of the technical changes we made. I think these are all blending together. I believe in 2024 that we made to ensure that this ordinance, and that language still is captured within this, is that a unbuilt, undeveloped lot still has those allowances as we intended prior to that, but weren't in that initial 2023 version. They remain in the ordinance now.
Okay. All right. I think, you know, what happened when we initially adopted the ordinance was that we ran into some fact situations that we never anticipated. I'm wondering, do we have people sitting now with money in escrow that are also part of a factual scenario that we didn't anticipate that isn't covered by this ordinance?
Mayor, that's a hard question to answer right now, but we can have our staff look into which permits are still in the queue, which ones are applied for, which ones are under review, and have that information. What this does do, though, hopefully, is creates another avenue for people to look at their planting. It also gives people two different opportunities on how escrow would be collected as well.
It'd be nice to know that before second reading, I think, or when we come back to discuss it, assuming it passes tonight.
Mayor, I don't have the technical expertise that staff does on this issue, but from the legal side, I can just say that this is designed to kind of, any existing escrow, it's moved over and applies to the extent this is different, which is very similar, but it applies to the new ordinance. And so if there's any truing up that has to happen between what was existing under the previous ordinance and escrow that's held under those standards and the new ordinance, the new standards would apply and any escrow would be returned if it should not have been collected or could not be held under the new standards.
Okay, that's good to know. The other thing we talked about, I don't think this addresses it from looking through the proposed form of ordinance, is that we might think about having a cap on the amount of escrow that you'd have at risk. And I have no sense of what that cap might be, but it seemed to me like we had some people that had $150,000 tied up in escrow, and it didn't seem to me that was necessary to motivate them to do what we wanted them to do. That something less than that would have been appropriate, maybe half. I don't know. Councilmember Jackson.
I'll just like to remind you that in my neighborhood, there's some houses that have 6 heritage oak trees on them, and that would be well over $100,000 if they were to clear cut that lot. And I've seen that happen, a lot that had 6 oak trees clear cut, and yeah, that's what we're trying to prevent.
Yeah, that's another point there. Maybe there's a distinction between protected trees and heritage trees.
Yeah. But you could easily, any one of these lots, you could get way over $100,000 if they wanted to clear cut it.
In the case of a tear down rebuild.
Yeah.
Mayor, I do believe that some of those calculations were because we did not have that allowance for an undeveloped lot. Okay. So a lot of those initially were falling under, they were not given any allowance for building pad, driveway, approach, or anything like that. So that technical change that was made initially to ensure that an undeveloped lot had those allowances would have gone to help reduce those escrows now and in the future. So that was a big pinch point on the prior version, was not recognizing or not allowing for an undeveloped lot coming in.
Well, you know, to remember Jackson's point, I mean, you think about all the variations on theme that could occur. You know, if those 4 heritage trees were in a place on the property where they didn't, the only purpose they served to being taken down was to accommodate the builder's ease of construction of the new house, that's one thing. If they had to come down because the footprint of the house was going to be where those oak trees were, that could be another factual scenario. Because I remember seeing that years ago up on Morningside. They clear cut a lot and they took down 4 big trees at the back of a lot that had nothing to do with where the house went. It just was easier for them to do their work on the site. So they go in there and destroy the very thing that they are selling the people on, which is this tree canopied neighborhood, and somebody's moving into a new house with no trees. And so it's quite an interesting situation. I get the part where what we're doing is saying that, yeah, if you need something from us, you need a grading permit, you need a demo permit, you need a building permit, or you're going to do a subdivision approval request, this is the price you pay. You're subject to the tree ordinance. But this whole issue of how you get to the rights of property owners, how they intersect with our desires for tree canopy and a private property owner's property rights, where he decides he just wants to take down one of his trees because it blocks his sunshine in the morning into his kitchen. There's nothing we can do about that.
There's not.
Yeah, and maybe appropriately so, to remember Pierce's point.
Yeah, I get that what I'm saying is really complicated. But if we do care about that tree and that tree canopy, then we actually should try to figure out a way to manage that. But we're really not doing that with this. This is remodel, it's new construction. I like the point that you just made. I agree with that. If builder is new construction, or it could be a remodel, and they're taking a tree down just because it makes their job easier, we shouldn't allow that. Right? So there are some things that totally make sense. But I just struggle with when I feel like we're veering into a homeowner's property rights, and I'm not sure what to do with that.
The other situation I think you covered this time was that other anomalous factual pattern that we faced up in Morningside, which was they took a big tree down and they were going to build a family room, and the tree was actually abutting, I think, next to the foundation or had some interference with the foundation. But nonetheless, the financial implications came into play. Do we have that problem solved now so that folks don't have to put down $10,000?
Yes, Mayor.
They had to take down a big tree to...
Find that. I think it's in section 3210, and that is there's a new provision for trees that are posing damage. If a certified professional attests to that, if it's their current foundation, driveway, other structures on the property, those would be exempt. So in that case, Mayor, if the new family room is going where the tree that's going to be impacting, the current foundation wall, that tree would be exempt because it's currently posing a potential risk to the existing structure.
Yeah, I see it's a discretionary call. It looks like under subpart 7.
7, correct.
Yeah, I like that one-year look-back period. I think that's important. We didn't have that in there before, which was in section 3. But where it says forestry staff may waive the mitigation requirement for removal of particular heritage trees on built lots in the following circumstances: trees posing damage to existing foundations, sidewalks, driveways. Trees located in an active easement or easement with a future need is identified by the city engineer. That makes sense from a practical standpoint. I'm still not sure that we caught the situation that those folks faced up in Morningside. Really, as I recall, precluded them, or at least challenged them on being able to even do the modest expansion they wanted to make in their house, to their house.
Well, Mayor, I would just say that this doesn't automatically preclude anyone from doing anything. It just requires potential replacement of trees, and, the preference is for them to be protected or replaced on site, but then it radiates out from there. So assuming it's otherwise legal according to zoning and all other standards, they wouldn't be prevented from doing something legal. They'd just be asked to try to preserve the trees, replace the trees on site, or replace the trees somewhere nearby, and then moving out from there. So this would not prevent any otherwise lawful construction or redevelopment.
I'll think about that situation up in Morningside between now and second reading. I want to get more information on that and see if we have language in here that covers it. Remember, Marissa, it caused you to think about something.
Yes, and between now and second reading, it would be really helpful to have a better understanding of just how much time it takes to, if you can't support the required trees, to survey your neighborhood, and what exactly does that entail? Are you going door knocking, how many blocks and all of that? The other thing is, I really hear what Member Pierce is saying, and I think, thinking about where did the trees go if the homeowner can't, find room for them, could we put emphasis on getting trees along sidewalks and areas where people, more of our commercial area where we really do need those trees? And, just thinking about it is really a very miserable experience when you are walking to the Galleria in August, or walking to the new Hennepin County Library. And, where can we put trees in to really enhance that kind of experience? Also, as I was driving over, I was looking at the boulevards and thinking, okay, along Valley View Road, there's a boulevard that's a really nice wide boulevard, but it's right underneath the power line, so we can't put them there. But, you turn the curve and there's open space, so you could put trees along there, and maybe you've got kids walking to school, summer programs. Where are people walking? Where are the places where we really do need that tree canopy? Because it is miserable walking in the summertime. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to differentiate between protecting the existing tree canopy and building a new tree canopy. I mean, that's why we have the tree sale, to encourage people to plant trees who want more trees in their yard. And we can, through, as we look at commercial redevelopment, encourage people to put in trees. So that's a separate avenue. This is to protect the trees that we have, just like we want to preserve existing naturally occurring affordable housing. We want to protect our tree canopy, and so that we can always encourage people to plant more trees. That's a separate track altogether. This is just to protect what we have.
No, that's accurate. But I think Member Risser's point was well taken by her first comments, and that is, how do we figure out a strategy to get more trees? Mm-hmm. We did put 1,000 in during COVID with some of the money that we got, which was great. But, I'll give an example of, it's always bothered me that on York and France Avenues, those medians are so narrow in the middle that they only accommodate these scrawny trees. And if this is just an idea that is floating around in my head, is that if we didn't do the underground passageway, and we thought about working with the county on how to get people across a 6-lane road at grade safely, let's say between 77th and 66th, that one way you can do it is to get rid of those 2 inside lanes, and you double the size of the median in the middle to make it safer for people to get across. And then you can do some really serious landscaping and turn France Avenue into something that looks spectacular over 40 years. So it was a good point that you made. Thanks. Okay, so anybody care to make a motion for first reading basis?
So moved.
Second.
Anybody says there a second?
A second.
All right, Member Agnew seconds the motion, and the motion is that we approve on a first reading basis the ordinance amending our tree protection ordinance 2026-04. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the motion as stated, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
You want to go the abstention route or the nay route? Nay route? Okay.
Yeah, I'll go the nay route.
Okay. We've got 4 ayes, 1 nay, and the ordinance is approved on a first reading basis. We'll see it again in the next session, I guess, next meeting?
Hopefully. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. On the next matter, which is dealing with lawful gambling, I'm thinking that before we even have our clerk, Sharon Allison, go through all of the effort that she's thinking about making here, there's been some discussion amongst council members and the mayor about tabling this matter for a month. Because there's some conversations yet to be had in the broader community, I think, with the nonprofits and other folks about how would this work, and would what we propose doing on a first reading basis, but there need to be some modification of that. And so I think most of us are willing to hear that before we adopt the ordinance, and maybe, I was thinking a couple of weeks might be good, but I think Member Agnew made a good point that it might take a month to get some of those conversations held with some of the nonprofits and some of the other organizations that are out there. And I don't know if anybody has any objection to that or not, or if people comfortable with that. Yeah, Member Pierce.
Can maybe you or Member Agnew give more detail on what we're thinking and why?
I can provide a little bit of, I guess, explanation, and it's only one meeting that I've got scheduled, and it's tomorrow by serendipity with the Ed Fund and the Booster Club. And they want to be able to explain why what we propose doing may be okay, or it may need some modification, but they want us to understand what they want to do, and Manager Neal and I agreed to meet with them tomorrow morning. Okay. And so I'm expecting that there'll be other groups then that will come forward and say, well, we'd like to have you hear our view of the world too. And so maybe a month is a good thing. But that's just one example. That's the only one that's the only contact I've had so far.
Okay, thank you.
I add?
Yes.
Thank you.
Member Agnew.
I think that there were also a couple of questions that I kind of posed at the last discussion about it that we haven't yet had an opportunity to really flesh out. You know, how many nonprofits are potentially within Edina? I was speaking to Manager Scott Neal earlier, and we had maybe an estimate, but I don't know if that is like the total number of all of the nonprofits that would be eligible under the definitions that we've had of the 70% and all of that. And then I'm also wanting to get an understanding of the estimates on revenue, because I think that might influence how we break out the percentages based off of like what the city might take or some of those other numbers.
Oh, good point.
And so I think it might help inform some of those structural components if we can come to the table with a little more data.
No, both good points. Okay, Member Agnew, you care to move the tabling of this matter until our meeting, it'll be the second meeting in March, which would be the 17th?
So moved.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Member Jackson seconds Member Agnew's motion to table this matter dealing with lawful gambling until the 17th of March meeting of the Edina City Council. Any further discussion? Member Risser.
I just want to make sure that since we're extending this, we have a way to communicate that to, you know, all different groups that might be interested in it. And I'm not really sure how that's going to happen.
Good thought.
So maybe an announcement somehow in the paper, on our website, just more clarity.
Director Benner out nodding her head affirmatively. She's already thinking about it. Okay, but that was a good thought too. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the motion as stated and table this matter until the 17th of March meeting of the City Council, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. This matter is tabled until the 17th of March meeting. And now we've got the ECMO. We've got a potential amendment to the ECMO services agreement. And our fire chief is here. walk us through this proposed potential change to the agreement we have.
All right, good evening, Mayor and council members. I have an update for the council tonight. This would probably normally live on consent agenda, but we thought it was a good opportunity to bring it forth as a discussion topic and get an update on ECMO. The mobile ECMO truck is this vehicle that you see in this picture. It's a very large vehicle, basically a surgery center on wheels. We operate it, as in we being the Edina Fire Department. Operates the vehicle. We meet up with a team of surgeons that perform the ECMO procedure, which in layman's terms is really heart and lung bypass. This is for sudden onset of cardiac arrest. It is the first vehicle of its kind in the world, and have some updates on the pilot program and including an amendment to the staffing of it. So today you first heard from me when I started here in 2021 on the job, where we were talking about ECMO and this pilot project and the concept around it. We went into an agreement with what was the mobile ECMO group at the time. That was for cross-staffing. We used an ambulance, cross-staff the ECMO vehicle, and the first in the world mobile ECMO procedure took place in Edina, Minnesota in 2022. That's something we're really proud of. There is ECMO in field hospitals in other countries, but this was the first mobile ECMO of its kind. So like any good pilot, it identified successes and failures of the program. Fairview Health Systems took over the contract in 2023. In October of 2024, we advised the Fairview system and the ECMO team that cross-staffing had too big of an impact on our Edina services. Taking another ambulance out of service didn't benefit our residents. And so we started looking at different staffing models. The vehicle lease still continued. That's why it's parked in our Station 1 right now. And we still evaluated different staffing models for that. And that's the update that we have tonight. So cross-staffing created those Edina challenges. It took members dedicated to Edina and took them off the streets during this procedure. It was something we were aware of. The impact continued to grow, so we moved away from that. The initial pilot was meant to intercept ambulances out on the countryside. There were logistical challenges of that. That's where the pilot moved to a kind of a hub and spoke model, where the University of Minnesota is the hub. They go to other hospitals. I explained to Manager Neal, it's similar to It's similar to the MRI machines you've seen parked at hospitals, where it's in addition to the hospital. That's how this ECMO truck works, where they might have capacity in the hospital, but they don't have the system set up. So they use this vehicle to perform the procedure as part of the hospital. This hub and spoke model is meant to expand access to ECMO in cardiac arrest for hospitals that don't currently have it. And so North Memorial is the next hospital, which will extend that ECMO coverage to the Northwest Metro. And that is the plan for this next phase, to move that access to those residents. Dedicated staffing was necessary to ensure that the MET or mobile ECMO truck operations don't reduce our Edina response. The amendment that we have today is changing the fee structure. It was the amendment that you might be familiar with is per response. The city of Edina gets reimbursed when the response goes. What we have proposed is dedicated staffing. So 2 temporary positions. They're full-time employees. They'll be battalion chief positions hired in a temporary capacity. When they're not assigned to ECMO, they're going to function as battalion chief strategic positions for the city of Edina, increasing our response and providing administration to our employees and responses throughout. This contract is $339,000 annually for this dedicated staffing. The contract expiration was in line with the vehicle lease, so it expires in August of 2027. There's an option to extend it and or terminate, just like there was before, for either party with written notice. So kind of in conclusion, the amendment just continues this pilot program that we've done with mobile ECMO. It's an exciting opportunity for us to increase that response level for the city of Edina and to mobile ECMO. The funds to operationalize this dedicated staffing allow this proof of concept for these strategic positions in the city of Edina that were part of our staffing plan in the future. So my recommendation in front of you tonight is to approve and authorize us to enter into the amendment for the Med agreement with Fairview Health Services. And I'll stand for any questions.
All right, just to be clear, Chief, on that one slide, the $339,000?
Correct.
That's not money we're paying to Fairview. That's money Fairview is paying to Edina to have those 2 battalion chiefs employed.
That's
temporary
correct, Mayor Hovland. This is money that they would pay us to operationalize with these 2 temporary positions that would benefit us still at the city for when they're not dedicated to ECMO. They'll be able to do the strategic level positions for structure fires, large incidents, and administrative duties for Edina while still dedicating on these ECMO responses. So we saw this as a win-win, a win for ECMO and a win for the city of Edina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good, Chief. Let me see if any, our council members have questions. I think it was a nice piece of work on your part. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? I don't see anybody. Other than it continues to be an impressive sort of machine, if you will, and the capabilities of it. So it's nice to be able to continue the program. I'm assuming we'll pass this when I say that. And I know you'd like that. So is there a motion to approve the amendment to the mobile ECMO truck services dispatch and deployment agreement as articulated by the fire chief?
So moved.
A second.
Member Jackson moves, Member Agnew seconds the motion to approve the amendment to the mobile ECMO truck services dispatch and deployment agreement as described by our fire chief. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just briefly.
Yes, go ahead.
So
Comment.
thank you for working on this. Thank you for taking the experiment and telling us how it's working, because when we try new things, it's always good to have that feedback loop. So I really appreciate you pulling it off consent and doing this, and for the creative work to make this operationalize and make it benefit everybody. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Thank you, Member Jackson.
Yeah, thank you.
And I really appreciate the mayor's question, because I think if we're going to hear from the community, they'll be concerned about who's paying for it. And so just any kind of communication about this would be really good to kind of have that early on in whatever is being communicated. But this is wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Risser.
We have a motion in a second.
Good. You have further comment? Okay. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the motion as stated, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried? Chief, great work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion's approved. Amendment to the agreement is approved. Okay. We are at manager's comments, and I think you wanted to give us an update on this work we've been doing together with some of the other cities around immigration customs enforcement.
Well,
activities, or is this something else?
This is related, but something else. This is we have a fresh report from our internal immigration response task force. It was included earlier today in the public packet, but we'll also be putting it up on our website. Details kind of the current situation and operational updates and background for a number of the items that we discussed with the council at our February 4th meeting, including a summary of kind of what we're working on and what we're not working on based on the principles of being able to enforce legally some of the operations that we talked with you about in masking and things like that. So I just wanted to let you know that that's out there. That's going to be on our website, and it's on the public packet tonight.
Yeah, good.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anything else?
That's all I got.
Okay. Council comments, Member Agnew.
Thank you. I think over the last couple of weeks, I'm never sure if it's sometimes because I work in technology and maybe I'm in an AI bubble right now, but I feel like artificial intelligence has become more a part of my day-to-day life. My 6-year-old rolls her eyes every time it gets brought up at the dinner table, and she says, "Not AI again." But the reality is, like, I think it's here, and I think that it's going to transform our industries and our livelihoods in ways that we can't even yet anticipate. So I spoke with Manager Neal earlier. Today we have some things that happen within the city regarding kind of our adoption of AI or use of AI within the city. And I just wanted you all to know I'm going to try and go to some of the internal lunch and learns that we have, and then potentially bring that back, or maybe even work with Manager Neal to schedule at like a future work session or something, more opportunity for everyone on the council to learn and be aware of what we're doing from a city level within artificial intelligence. But just wanted to share, I'm excited about it, and I'm excited to be a part of our city's adoption, utilization, innovation, all related to AI. And I think that's it for me today.
No, thank you for that. Councilmember Pierce.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just had a comment this week, and probably last week. I've had just really some great conversations with residents, and it probably seems odd, but I kind of love those where we don't agree, and you start having that intellectually honest conversation and debate back and forth. And the one this week, it ended with agreement on a couple of things and not on another, but a mutual respect and thanks for having the engagement and the conversation. And so I just wanted to make the nod again that we really do value that engagement, all of us do, especially when we can do it and there's a particular objective, there's no political perspectives or political views, where we just want to understand and have a dialogue. I definitely enjoy that, and have had a couple of really good ones the past couple of weeks. So other than that, that's it.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Jackson.
Nothing for me tonight.
All right. Councilmember Risser.
I have been hearing from people about the ADA digital accessibility requirements that the federal government is having municipalities respond to. And our deadline is April 24th, 2026, but we've already started taking action. And so it's been impressive to see what has been done. I am concerned about items from the packets not being included, and people, these are the items that say board portal by them. And so if residents want to see that, they need to make a data request. And one of the things I'm concerned about is some of the documents, for example, from the January 20th meeting, the Braemar Ice Arena concept plan presentation was not included in the packet. And I don't know if at some point it's going to be modified so that it can be part of the packet, or if we could get it available, and maybe it's already up on our website, but I just haven't seen that. We've got an HRA meeting coming up on Thursday, and the developer presentation is not included, but that has a lot of the information that people really need to see in order to understand exactly what is going on. So putting this out there for maybe staff could let us know why these documents are not being included. And when you see board portal, I don't know if that means now and forever these are not going to be made available unless you do a data request. So sorry, that's kind of a lot at the end of the meeting. But these are really important things and pieces of information that I think people need to have. So thank you.
Yeah, Manager Neal.
I think it would be good for us to give you a comprehensive response to that. If we could line that up for our March 4th meeting, I will be prepared to do that.
That would be wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
At the end of January, we had the winter meeting of the U.S. Conference of Mayors in D.C., and Google was there a day before to offer up a course that I couldn't get there in time to take, but as you all know, I had the U.S. Conference of Mayors Leadership meeting. About 50 mayors went to L.A. last weekend, and actually it was more than a weekend. I went on Wednesday afternoon so I could be there Thursday morning, because Google again offered this course on AI, an AI workshop for mayors. And we spent about 4 hours over at the Google Spruce Goose facility, which is where Howard Hughes built that Spruce Goose back in, during the war. You know, that humongous plane, I think it was designed to be on the water and fly off the water, and at least had one flight. But it's just a fabulous facility. And Google, of course, has a vested interest in some of these conversations because they've got Gemini for Government as a product. And some of the mayors had already had Google into their facilities to talk about savings they could achieve. And I know some of our residents were wondering, well, did I go to the AI workshop at the winter meeting? But as I said, I couldn't get there, but I got to this one. And so I just wanted to tell you a little bit about what happened there and how that 4 hours was spent. And you know, Google, I just took notes here that Google has products that can assist cities. For example, programs that can help you find potholes, predict areas that will flood or are subject to flooding, or distinguish a fire from a barbecue grill, sidewalk reconstruction capabilities to help you with analyzing all of those sidewalks that need to be redone, how city staff can better serve the people in their community, public record requests. Redondo Beach is using it for dealing with public record requests, which sometimes inundate our city clerk and take enormous amount of time. They're using it that way. Chicago is using it for speeding up licensing and permitting. LA, I'm going to talk about LA a little bit more in depth here in a minute because they had their CIO officer there who was really quite impressive. They're using it, they run their own utility, water and power, and they're using it for estimating load growth and clean energy capabilities. Some of the cities are using it for policing purposes already. Atlanta is using it for grant applications, for permitting, policing, and Beverly Hills the same, some of the policing activity. Cypress, California is using it in an interesting way to deal with misinformation that's out on social media. So they're using AI to help deal with misinformation and get that quickly corrected. Some of the cities that are really diverse and have a large immigrant population are using it for language conversion. That's an important thing to be thinking about. And some of the cities now are using, with their police cameras on their chests, have language conversion capabilities right on their cameras. So if they're talking to someone who doesn't speak English, they're able to have at least a conversation about what's happening. Lincoln, Nebraska is using it for citizen engagement. Columbia, South Carolina is helping existing employees more effectively do their jobs. And the mayor of Columbia told me that they'd had the Google team in, and they're expecting to save thousands and thousands of dollars through the use of Gemini for Government. So the time is upon us, as Member Agnew points out, and the timing was right to even have a conversation about it. And the list, is, you know, as we went around the room, there were so many mayors there that were talking about how they were using it, and those are just some illustrative examples. As I mentioned, Ted Ross, who's the CIO of the city of Los Angeles, he said that AI feels a lot to him like nuclear power. You can do great things with it, or you could do really bad things with it. And this learning, this reasoning that's taking place, he said leaders are going to need to partner with technologists to create success in the future, and keeping cities great requires technological solutions, and AI delivers on a lot of that. And it's cost effective and duplicable, and it gets better every year. And so we're all just going to become aware of that's another tool in the toolbox. So LA's approach is, the first thing they're doing is they're delivering AI training. They're delivering AI training to all of their staff. They feel like it's a generational opportunity to upscale their workforce. So it's through an intro to AI with using Google's services, They're dealing with issues of privacy and security. They're dealing with enhanced graphics using Adobe Firefly. They're using it with IT developers in the city structure, and they're using it for financial integrity purposes too. And they're deploying generative AI tools with about 27,000 employees. So it really some interesting things going on in Los Angeles. Other stories, people using products like Microsoft Copilot. An employee wrote a report in 2 hours. It normally takes 2 days. And these are the things that we know are coming and that we need to be prepared for. So AI is Ted Ross said, he said, AI is forcing us to be the entity we should have been 10 years ago. And then some of the people from Google spoke, really interesting information there. As I mentioned, is Gemini for government product that they're using. They call it shadow IT, using AI, because it means using AI to get your job done more effectively. And it's really been a nice supplement for people in doing their jobs more effectively at the city level. And then there's a product called Jigsaw that builds technology on the Gemini platform to get people more comfortable with using it. So that's another element of it to think about as well. So here we are at the front end of this thing, and we want to be, as Edina, in our town, I think our people in our community always say, you can take the lead on technology, you can take the lead on environmental things, go to it. And so we should be going to it. Friday, the rest of Friday, or actually that was all of Thursday. By the time we got back, it takes forever to get anywhere in LA. On Friday, we dealt with issues around immigration enforcement and the proposed U.S. Conference of Mayors policy around immigration enforcement. What's happened in Los Angeles, what's happened in Portland, what's happened in Chicago, and now what's happened in Minneapolis has triggered all kinds of conversation with mayors across the country. And we were releasing a statement, I think, that should be out for public consumption. The chair of that committee on immigration enforcement is Todd Gloria, who's the mayor of San Diego. And then Dan Rickeman, the mayor of Columbia, South Carolina, is the co-chair. Talked about public-private partnerships. The mayor of Atlanta leads that group. And challenges and opportunities mayors face in major sports venues. That doesn't really pertain to Edina, but it was interesting information. And then we talked a little bit about taking control of your energy future. And then on Saturday morning, that was dedicated solely to legislative updates and for my group that's involved in surface transportation. I've got 4 co-chairs, the mayor of, not co-chairs, but they're vice chairs. I've got the mayor of Austin, Texas, the mayor of Normal, Illinois, who is a rail guy, Mayor of Gresham, Oregon, who's transit, and a mayor from a suburb of Seattle that is the freight rep. And so we've had a lot of conversation around that, and there's some really good news to report that we've got sponsors for a bill that deals with this concept we've been talking about here too, about localism, how the post-COVID economy has changed the way our transportation systems are functioning, and there's more and more pressure on local roadways. And so we want more money coming directly to local units of government, to the MPOs and for distribution as opposed to going through state DOTs. We've got sponsors on the bill, and we're supposed to make sure that we encourage our legislators at the congressional level to support this bill. And then there was, like everything here too, the big conversation there is housing. And some of the benefit programs that have been cut back, tariffs. There were all kinds of reports from the different committees that took place on that Saturday morning, and then we were done about noon on Saturday and headed for the airport. So it was a lot of compressed activity into about 2.5 days. What is that? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and half a day Saturday, 2.5 days. Plus the benefit of being able to go to that session, that long session at Google on AI for mayors. I think it really helped me understand better the directions we need to head, and I think we're all willing participants on that, wanting to make sure our city is running as effectively and efficiently as possible, and the people that work here can get their jobs done in the best possible way and have this shadow companion, if you will, helping them do their jobs more effectively. So That's it for me from a report standpoint. Thanks for bearing with me on that. And anybody have anything else as a result of that? Okay. I think we're meeting, speaking of congressional people, I think we're having a meeting tomorrow morning, mid-morning, with Kelly Morrison, the mayors in the western suburbs. So I'll give you a report on that meeting with her as well. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Got a motion to adjourn by Member Jackson, second by Member Agnew. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adjourning the meeting of the Edina City Council on this Tuesday, February 17, 2026 at 8:50 p.m., say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. We stand adjourned.